The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
This is Orioles preview. Orioles continuing their series with the Detroit Tigers at Camden Yards tonight. 6:30 first pitch. Our coverage gets underway at 6 o'clock. They lost 5-3 last night. They have fallen now 13 games under 500. They are 14 games behind the first place Yankees. They are 8.5 games out of a wild card spot. It's at the point where they really got to get hot over the next month, or you're looking at them being sellers at the trade deadline. Now, part of the problem, as with, I guess, with all teams, but particularly hit hard, has been the Orioles with injuries. And they had two starters who finally came off the injured list last night, both of them with hamstring injuries. Cedric Mullins, outfielder, was back. Jordan Westburg, third base, also out with a hamstring injury. They're back. They were both in the lineup last night, and a healthy team, as Mullins points out, is a team that has a much better outlook.
Thinking back on opening day and the guys who we started with and just kind of the impact that had on the team early, and to lose a lot of those guys, it could definitely affect the team. Guys coming back healthy, especially this early in the season. We're hoping for good things out of ourselves.
Now, Mullins last night went hitless in 4 at-bats as the DH, but Westburg hit a home run. And this was his first time back after a long stay on the injured list. And he spent some time preparing to get back to this point and improving his performance against left-handed pitchers.
I think I learned more about just how to handle my body. Been dealing with some things all year, and this gave me some time to kind of step back and hopefully get all of those things right. Come back feeling more like myself physically. Last year is more of the mental side, the leadership side. This year I think is just more getting back to getting strong, being healthy, and hopefully coming in and using all of the tools I'm able to use or able to have for this team.
Jordan, lefties really well. That's been a struggle for this team this year. How much did you work on that, during the rehab stint, and also how much has Celino talked to you, your teammates talked to you about what you can do, kind of maybe to bolster that side of it?
Just in facing lefties, there haven't been a ton of conversations about that. I don't think we're too worried about that. There's some really good lefty starters in this league, and you're seeing they're like 1, 2, 3 in the Cy Young races. It can be tough at times, and I think digging into the numbers can get dangerous. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So I didn't really face a ton of lefties in my rehab start. I think I had 1 at bat against them. So to answer your question, not a whole lot. This team is more than capable of turning it around against lefties. We have a lot of really good right-handed bats in here. I hope I can bring something to the table, like I said, we're just going to try and attack whoever's on the mound that day, take a good plan into that game and see what happens. It's baseball. It can be crazy at times. It can be really cruel with hard-hit balls and being outs, So digging into the numbers, I think, can get a little bit dangerous.
Jordan, a couple weeks ago, we had some time about how much you mean to this team, and he said something to the effect of, quote, that you're the glue to this whole thing. When you hear something like that, what kind of goes through your head? What does that mean to you to hear, I guess, you and the skipper talk about you?
Yeah, I'd call him a liar to his face. But no, that's it's flattering, certainly. I'm one to try and keep the spotlight off myself and not think too highly of myself, So for somebody else, somebody who's manning this ship right now and who I have a really good relationship, it means a lot. It makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel like you're wanted and somewhat needed in this clubhouse, and it's a good place to be. It makes you feel comfortable, and I'm happy to play for that guy. I do a lot for him. I don't think there's a better guy right now to handle the situation that we've been put in, and I'm looking forward to playing for him again.
Yeah, Jordan Westburg did play his first game with Tony Mansolino, the manager. Brandon Hyde got fired while he was on the injured list. And while he hit a home run last night, he is still only hitting .221. And it's going to take the Stars continuing their upswing. Adley Rutschman has started to pick things up lately. They've also gotten much better performances out of Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday, who came up way too early last year, sent back down, came back up, now seems to have settled in nicely as the leadoff hitter, and the starting second baseman had 2 hits last night and is batting a healthy .267. So all those guys have to produce in order to what would be a miracle turnaround. I mean, the Nationals did it 6 years ago. The Orioles are still way behind the pace on that. 13 games under 500, 14 out of first, and 8.5 out of a wild card spot. But you press on. They need better starting pitching. Cade Povich has been inconsistent, and last night was chased in the fifth inning after giving up 9 hits and 5 runs. This was Mansolino on his performance and how the 5-3 loss to the Tigers went last night.
Yeah, I feel like consistency right now, right? Like I feel like you see him in Seattle and how he handled Seattle, which was a lineup that was swinging the bat really good, and it helps you dream on him a little bit, and you feel good about him going into it. And you see the 2 quick outs, 3 of the 5 innings against a pretty tough lineup, and you feel good about him. He just kind of couldn't slow down the damage once it started. It happened really fast tonight, and that was probably the story of the game.
That's sort of been a theme for him, like third time through the order.
Sure.
It's been difficult for him. That's obviously something that a lot of pitchers deal with. Is there anything that you think needs to happen adjustment-wise or pitch calling-wise when he gets third time through the order so that lineups aren't really attacking him like that?
My guess is probably just experience at this point. It's hard for me to know the exact specifics of every individual pitcher, him included. That's probably a better question for our pitching staff. But, I think more than likely just continuing to get thrown out there and continuing to do it. And I think if we do it and he understands and feels our confidence in him, hopefully he gets a little more consistent and has more outings like the Seattle one.
Do you see any common trend? I mean, when you're facing a bullpen game, you're obviously seeing a lot of different matchups, but
Sure.
The offense to maybe struggle to put together sustained rallies. Did you see any kind of trend between the rallies inning to inning?
No. I mean, they go with Herter, who I think has a 1.5 or 1.7 or something, and there's a reason why he's good. And the guys that you worry about are probably the younger left-handed hitters, and they did good. You look at Jackson, struck 2 balls well off him tonight. Gunnar, big 2-out knock. O'Hearn, I think, faced him once, got hit in the elbow, got on base. So I think the right-handed bats probably didn't help as much against him. The kid that came in next did a good job. Looks like the sinker was sharp. I felt like we started to get to him as the game went on. I liked the at-bats against Conley. I thought it was good. We had pretty good chance to load the bases right there. Didn't happen. And then in the 9th inning against Vest, who's probably one of the better guys in the business right now, or as consistent as anybody, I feel like we put up good at-bats against him. I think as the lineup is healthy, which it is right now and getting healthier, I think there's a lot of confidence that we'll start to string together more at-bats.
How nice was it to see Jordan Westbrook go deep there?
Yeah, and like that, the first at bat, the ball he hit hard right at the second baseman. Like when I saw that, that's Jordan Westbrook. When he's flying off the ball and hooking stuff and out in front and breaking posture, and that's not Jordan. But the guy that hits a bolt right at the second baseman first at bat, it was a really good feeling watching that. And I think those are the types of at bats that lead to the home run later in the game.
Gunner's second at bat, 10 pitches, laid off some tough ones, fouled off a few others. Is that more what you kind of expect from him against lefties?
Yeah, it's what we saw last year. I mean, he was really good last year against left-handed pitching. It's what we need him to do. And it's what Jackson needs to do. And Jackson, I mean, outside of the Sunday game in Oakland or Sacramento, he's been handling them pretty good. So feeling better about the direction they're trending, and there's going to be days where they're not good against them. But I feel like the more days we have like this, it's good.
What led to the move with Mateo?
He had that collision. If you guys remember about 10 days ago, collision, inflammations building up over time, just talking to us about it, bothering him a little bit, got it imaged, kind of saw what it was. Group got together and made a plan to take care of Georgie and made the decision.
It's no secret that you guys have to play at a 90-ish win pace in order to potentially make the playoffs. In a season like last year or 2 years ago, a loss like this, it's maybe easy to point to the positives. But
Sure.
When you know how much pressure is on each game, what do you say to your team? Does it feel kind of the weight, I guess, post-game after, losses continue to build up?
Well, I mean, it's grown men in there. We don't talk to them after the game. They know. So they know how important these games are. And, I mean, they prepare with incredible urgency every day. I've used that word a lot, and it's in the building. You feel it in the dugout. You feel it in the preparation. You feel how they play. Against Conley, a pretty good eighth-inning guy who's having a great year, they gave themselves a shot, right? You bring up the tie and run to the plate in almost drew a walk right there. And then in the 9th inning against Vest, some good swings right there. You get a home run. Urias hits the ball hard. There's no quit. There's no panic. They're competing. Again, the preparation day-to-day is outstanding. You just got to keep playing.
Patience you talked about with Povich. With Mayo, is it the same issue of
you being patient with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are being patient, and we see great signs of progress from Kobe. I think anytime a young player comes in, I think you're weaving them into a big leagues a certain way. So, you think back to a couple years ago when Westbrook came up and looked at, how Westy kind of weeds himself into the big leagues and how he's used. I think it's probably a pretty good blueprint for Mayo, and we'll continue to do that with him. So, yeah, I think anytime a young player's here, I think every young player is probably built differently. I don't think we treat everybody the same by any means. I think that's probably a myth. But I think, a lot of smart people get together and they ask what's best for the kid. How do we handle this kid? And then also balance trying to win the game every night, which is the most important thing. So I think we're trying to marry the two together. And I've said it before, I think most teams in the big leagues are trying to balance development and winning on a nightly basis in some form or fashion.
I know we got kind of past it, but what's the level of concern with Mateo given the history with that elbow?
Anytime you have a history like that and something pops up, there is concern. I feel like our medical staff isn't super concerned about it. I think it's more a scenario of let's take care of Georgie, let's make sure he's healthy, and give him the best chance to help us win and help himself.
That's Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino after last night's 5-3 loss to Detroit, which again leaves them 13 games under 500. The series continues tonight, 6:30 start. Coverage here at 6 o'clock. Look, Detroit's got the best record in the league. They're 44-24. They may be better than the Yankees. They may be better than the Dodgers, hard as that is to believe. But Detroit is doing something right. The Orioles have not done it right this year after apparently doing it right the last couple of years. The question is, what is it going to look like until they get to the trade deadline? And if it continues like this, they certainly have to be sellers. But after they finish up with Detroit tomorrow night, they got the Angels coming in for 3. The Angels have not been a good team this year, just under 500. And maybe they can, make some hay in the next 5 games before they head out to Tampa Bay. But things are starting to slip away from them very early in this season. And it just hasn't panned out the way that they'd hoped. Injuries have had a lot to do with it. Including the one who's supposed to join us next, Andrew Kittredge, right-handed pitcher who has started the season on the injured list with the knee surgery, has come back. He's pitched very well, 6 2/3. He's given up only 1 earned run and has struck out 9. But he's just one cog in the machine. He's a reliever who'll pitch, to a batter or two, a couple of batters. Well, he has to pitch to 3 now, but short reliever and still working his way back. So, like to paint a rosier picture, but it's not very pretty right now for the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll talk to Andrew Kittredge about what he has seen in the brief time he's been up with the Orioles. Stay with us. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
Want to take ESPN 630 wherever you go?
Today, Junior!
Download the newly designed ESPN 630 app from the App Store on your iPhone or the Google Play Store. Use your hands-free setting or Bluetooth connection in your car.
Sensational.
And listen to us no matter how close or far you are from D.C. And don't miss a second of your favorite shows from anywhere in the world.
Oh, there it is.
ESPN 630, the sports capital. Now worldwide from your phone. The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
This is Orioles preview. Orioles continuing their series with the Detroit Tigers at Camden Yards tonight, 6:30 start. Coverage here on ESPN 630 gets underway at 6 o'clock. We are joined by reliever Andrew Kittredge, who signed with the Orioles in the offseason. His season began a little bit late because of a knee issue, but since coming back last month, he's been terrific. 6 2/3 innings, 1 earned run given up, 9 strikeouts. Looks like you're feeling pretty healthy right now, are you?
Yeah. No, it kind of took me a little bit to get my feet under me this year, unfortunately, but kind of feeling like I'm finally getting going now.
I was looking at your background, and coming out of high school in 2008, you were a 45th round pick. The draft is now 20 rounds. You elected to go to the University of Washington, and tell me how this worked. After finishing at the University of Washington, you signed with Seattle as an unrestricted free agent, even though they had drafted you. How did that work?
So when I opted to go to college out of high school instead of signing with the Mariners out of the draft, then I go back into the draft pool. So the Mariners don't get to keep my rights or anything like that as far as that goes. So spent a couple years in college at Washington, and then signed, like you said, as a non-drafted free agent with the Mariners. And here we are, 14, 15 years later.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I looked up who was the first pick in that 2008 draft. And do you remember who it was? Do you remember who the first player taken that year was?
I think it was Tim
Beckham.
Tim Beckham.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was a teammate of mine. I have to remember that.
Yeah, right. And the point I'd make, I looked up his signing bonus. It was $6.1 million. As a 45th round pick, do you remember what the Mariners offered you as a bonus?
I think they offered me a congratulations.
Nothing? Not even like a couple $100? Nothing?
Well, I actually I do somewhat remember the conversation, and I had spoken with that area scout before who called me to tell me the Mariners had drafted me, and he just said we know that you are going to go to school, but we felt that you deserved to have your name called.
Okay.
So it was kind of nice that they would kind of waste a draft pick on me, so to speak, knowing that I was going to opt to go to school. But kind of the honor of getting drafted, and that's probably part of the reason why they felt they could shrink the draft a little bit, because that happened a little bit more than it probably needed to.
Yeah, I have to research this a little bit more, but the story of Mike Piazza has been told many times, that he was a 62nd round draft pick, and now he's in the Hall of Fame. But as a 45th round pick, you made an all-star team. How many players do you think drafted that low ever made an all-star team?
I don't know. That would actually be something that I would be interested to know. But no, that was such an honor to represent the Rays that year. Something that it took me a long time in my playing career to wrap my brain around the fact that I could actually play in the big leagues, let alone, maybe be on an all-star team in a given year. And, the cards just kind of, everything fell into place. I had a really good season, and I was just fortunate to be on a good team and kind of reap the benefits of some sustained success for a period of time, and I've always just kind of been chasing that since.
Talking to Andrew Kittredge, reliever for the Baltimore Orioles, signed in the offseason and has come up the last few weeks and has pitched very well for them. Also looking in your background, you have 6, 7 siblings? How many people in your family?
I have 5 sisters and a brother. My brother's the oldest, and then there's 5 girls, and then me.
Wow.
So they call the boys, we're the bookends.
Bookend. Oh, you're on either side of the girls? Is that how that worked out?
That's right. Yeah, my brother's the oldest, and I'm the youngest.
Oh, so yeah,
5 girls in between.
So the path. I'm guessing. How much older is he than you? It wasn't like you were just a few years apart, obviously.
13. He's 13 years older than me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't like because you hear a lot about people who come from big families, and there's a very competitive situation. You're playing basketball or whatever against your brother. So really, he was like a much older brother for you, and then all the sisters in between. How did that work out with your baseball career coming up? Obviously, you had some great support along the way, but a little bit different family dynamic.
Yeah, my brother was always super supportive of me. He was more into basketball as a young guy, but being that we had such a big age gap, there wasn't really a competitiveness there. We didn't compete with one another as much as just I felt supported by him, and he always would help me practice when I was a young kid and different things like that. There was more competitiveness with my younger sisters, I think, just because of the closeness in age. But there was some athletes in the family, some not. But that was it was always kind of nice, having an older brother to look up to and not feel like we were always kind of getting on each other.
Yeah, well, look, Tom Brady has 2 or 3 sisters, and he always says he wasn't the best athlete in the family. So I understand how that worked out. Let's talk about your stay in Tampa, because, a couple of years ago, this was the big rivalry in the American League, Baltimore and Tampa, and the Orioles ultimately won the division. When you were with them, what did you see from Baltimore in terms of their development? And as you look at how things have unfolded this season, this has to be, a shocker with the way things have been headed the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when I was in Tampa, that was the one thing I know. I mean, I was there a couple of those years when the Orioles, before they kind of had turned it around.
Right.
And just to see kind of how quickly that transformation was, even from a different team was pretty impressive. I think it was 2021 when I was on the Rays. I think we beat the Orioles 18 out of 19 times that year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later, it's best record in the American League, making a serious run at the playoffs, and just see the roster and the turnaround that they've made and the young talent that they had here. That was kind of what, drew me to sign here this offseason, was just, looking at the roster and looking at the expectation to win here. And, unfortunately, like you said, we kind of got off to a slow start, and, we got a uphill battle the rest of the way. But, we do have such a talented group that, if we just keep plugging away, start playing good baseball. We've been playing good baseball lately. If we just keep doing that and put our heads down and kind of go to work and see what happens at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, the reality is you're here on a 1-year deal, and if the team doesn't turn things around, the trade deadline comes. I mean, I guess that's not something you can think about, but it happens, right? That's baseball. They've got to recoup for the years to come. I mean, do you try to put that out of your mind is the question to ask there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been brought to my attention, but like you said, it's something I try not to think about. The day-to-day of the season, it's such a long season, and we got a lot of work to do day in and day out. And to focus on things that are outside of my control would just be doing myself a disservice and my teammates. And so, yeah, really try not to focus on anything like that. I'm a Baltimore Oriole, and that's where I want to be right now. And, let's just try to win as many games as we can.
Well, I speak to you from a city that saw a team go from 19-31 to World Series champions. You guys are a little bit further behind the 8-ball, but you've been around baseball a lot longer than I have. I guess anything can happen in the second half, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's such a weird sport. We win 8 in a row or something. It turns around, looks a little different, but just how it started bad, it can turn around that quickly too. So. We just got to start playing good baseball and see where it goes from there.
Great. Best of luck to you. Thanks for being on the show, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Andrew Kittredge, right-handed reliever for the Orioles, who continue their series tonight. And this weekend, Father's Day weekend, this is really cool. If you got younger kids, both teams do this, the Orioles and the Nats, but they let the kids run the bases on Sunday after the game. But this Sunday at Camden Yards, dads can run the bases too. Now, I would advise dads who haven't been in the best of shape and haven't been running to be careful on that, because you can pop a knee or an Achilles, so be careful if you're running the bases with your kids. Don't run at full speed. Also, a randomly selected dad and a kid will be a guest splasher, the splash zone out at Camden Yards. Players and kids who were with them, they will yell, play ball after the national anthem. You can do that. Well, I guess you can do that at any game. But they got a special for Father's Day. This is really cool. 2 tickets and a cooler for $99. And, I saw my first big sporting event with my dad. It was a baseball game. If you got a kid who hasn't been to a baseball game, Father's Day, a great day to do it. $99, 2 tickets and a cooler. And kids 14 and under with tickets in section 76 to 62, they get to sit on the home run porch. So those specials going on at Camden Yards this weekend as the Orioles will wrap things up with the Tigers tomorrow night and then get the Angels in for the weekend before heading to Tampa Bay next week. I want to thank Andrew Kittredge for joining us on the show today, Isaac Kuhn Harris for running the show, all of you who listened. Bram is coming up next. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.